What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to welcome you all to another edition of Wayne's Perspective, where we operate in discipline, decency, integrity, and respect. And I'm coming through with another one just for you. All right, y'all. Like I always do before I start my videos, I hope everyone out there is doing okay, taking every day one day at a time and living life the best way you know how. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain too much over here. I'm also taking every day one day at a time and living life the best way I know how as well. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and get into today's video, which should be a fun one, a nostalgia-filled one, and for someone who has been a wrestling fan since the age of 5, this is going to be a good one. This project, which is going to focus on the 1990 Royal Rumble match and the 1992 Royal Rumble match, is something that I've been thinking about doing for quite some time, mainly because these two Rumble matches are not only in my top 10 favorite matches of all time, and I can say with certainty that these two Rumble matches I've watched more than any others over the years. And granted, I've seen a lot of Rumble matches in my day, but as far as the two Rumble matches I've watched the most, it would be the 1990 edition and the 1992 edition. To begin things, we're going to start with the 1990 Royal Rumble match. This was the third annual edition of the show. It took place on January 1st, 1990 from the Orlando Arena in Orlando, Florida. I first saw the 1990 Royal Rumble match slash show, I want to say in either 2000 or 2001. Now, for those of you listening to this who were born and raised in Petersburg like me, at this point, we still have Blockbuster Video, and they did have a Video World, but for some reason, Video World transferred from a traditional video store to Movie Gallery, which had tons of videos. And I don't think any of the videos they had in there were for rent. I think that the majority of the videos that they sold were like new and pre-owned videos. So I went in there one day and I bought the Coliseum video version of the 1990 Royal Rumble. And I had it for quite some time before I just eventually sold it. Not sure why I sold it, but I guess this was at a point when I was coming out of VHS tapes and just focusing on DVDs for the most part. And like most events of that era, I enjoyed it. I thought the undercard was great and the Rumble match was excellent. The build up to this show was your standard build. There was really nothing on the line in terms of the Rumble match itself, and that was pretty much the case with the last 2 years as well. The pre-match interviews were rather interesting, so we're going to talk about those right quick. Ted DiBiase, what was good about his interview was that it was a callback to the 89 Rumble. Y'all remember when DiBiase and the Dr. Styles Slick, they had a talk basically between them to make some things happen, and next thing you know, DiBiase had got number 30 in the Rumble, whereas 1 year later, 1990, there's added security to prevent any chicanery, according to Mean Gene Okerlund. DiBiase, of course, he was stressed out, and we found out that he drew number 1. And I like how Gene Okerlund, God rest his soul, I like how he was so determined to get to the bottom of things. And when he snatched the number out of his hand, he said, "Oh, you couldn't have gotten a worse draw. This is number 1, the worst number of the lot." Like I said, God bless Gene Okerlund. DiBiase thinks he has a golden opportunity to victory no matter what number he draws. We'll see about that. Next up, we have the Heenan family, which consists of Bobby Heenan, Rick Rude, Andre the Giant, and Haku. Sean Mooney was basically stirring the pot, with them basically all claiming that they would do what it takes to win. No surprise there. Mr. Perfect confirmed that he got the perfect number, which of course we know would be number 30. From there, the interviews continue with Earthquake and Dino Bravo. Dino Bravo pretty much said that he hoped the Ultimate Warrior's number was close to his. Earthquake says no one is safe from him. Then we have Demolition, Axe and Smash. They talk briefly about their encounter from the 89 Rumble where Axe drew number 1 and Smash drew number 2. And that was a big moment because nobody saw that coming at the time. They pretty much said that they know how hard each other can hit and they knew what their numbers were, so it was not going to be number 1 or number 2. And I'm pretty sure if it was, they would have said that. And of course, they make it clear that they won't hesitate to fight each other. Bad News Brown, y'all know what he says. The other Bill Belly sharecroppers better stay out of his way. Okay. Dusty Rhodes says he'll be gunning for the Macho King no matter how long it takes. Even if he has to be in there all night long, it doesn't matter. If he's in there when he gets there, it doesn't matter. He's going to get himself a piece or the Macho King. The Rockers will be high flying as ever. They're going to rock and roll and strut and stroll in a Rumble match. Woo! Hercules, in a funny moment, as intense as ever, said he's going to win this Rumble Royal today. I always chuckle when I hear that. The model Rick Martel pretty much says that no one is going to touch his beautiful face in the Rumble. Tito Santana, in a standard babyface promo, says he's coming out a winner and he'll do his best. Arriba! Jimmy Snuka says what about you would expect from him. Akeem, the African Dream, the Dr. Style Slick spoke for him while he was doing those silly hand gestures. Will he be the best in this Rumble? We shall see. No. To round out this set of interviews, we have the Ultimate Warrior who says the power of the Warrior will reign supreme. He's the most powerful force in the WWF. And interestingly enough, he foreshadows a bit by bringing up Hogan. But I have more to say about that during this match as well. The final set of interviews before we head into the Rumble match starts with Randy Savage. He says, don't bet against him because you'll go broke. He's number one and he is the winner of the Royal Rumble. And look out, Dusty Rhodes, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Roddy Piper, Jake the Snake, look out. Savage was great on these interviews, whether he was the Macho Man or the Macho King. The Powers of Pain and Mr. Fuji said nothing of note. Jake the Snake Roberts was up next, and I like how Jake Roberts put over the Rumble match as a concept, which was a nice touch. And he says that the winner would be the one who sacrifices just a little bit more than others. Hot Foundation, my favorite tag team of all time, they come through with an interview of their own. Brett being anxious but calm. And of course, you know, the Anvil, Jim Neidhart, he's excited and just amped up. And Brett yells at him and tells him to mellow out. The Honky Tonk Man, this is somebody whose work within recent years has grown on me a little bit more. And when he gives this interview talking about he has 29 hits and he gonna play every last one of them, he says he's gonna play a new tune every 2 minutes. I trip out each and every time. And last but not least, we round this out with Hulk Hogan, who says he's ready with Hulkamania being at his peak. And in my Tony Schiavone voice, the stage is set. The combatants are ready. Let's go to the Fink. Rest in peace to the Fink as well. I miss him. I miss how he used to announce the Rumble match, such as, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Royal Rumble. I miss that, and I also miss, let's all find out who drew number one for the Royal Rumble. I really miss that. It's always a nice touch when he did it. So we get into the match itself. Ted DiBiase drew number one. Koko B. Ware drew number two. DiBiase ended up eliminating Koko B. Ware. 1 down, 28 to go. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but I do want to say again that the commentators for this match are Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura. Next up, Marty Jannetty from the Rockers. He drew number three. I also want to make a note that at this point, when Marty Jannetty came out, the music was playing for his entrance, and the next person who drew number four, the music played there, but then it stopped. And they wouldn't start back doing that again until the 1996 Royal Rumble. So I wonder what happened there. Was it a mix-up or did somebody make the call to just not play the music? I don't think we ever found that out. If we did, let me know. So like I said, Marty Jannetty drew number three. DiBiase eliminated him. After that elimination, it became 2 down, 20. Jake the Snake Roberts drew number four, and when he came out, he got a big pop. And at this point, him and DiBiase, they were still feuding, and their feud would continue going into WrestleMania 6. And I like Tony Schiavone's response when he came out. Look at this, Jesse. I mean, Tony Schiavone was great during this match, and Jesse Ventura was great as well. Randy Savage drew number five, sprint down to the ring as only he could. And Jesse Ventura noted that it's punishment to face both Randy Savage and Ted DiBiase at the same time, which I thought was a good call. Roddy Piper drew number six, big pop from the crowd when he came out, and then went crazy when it was him and Jake Roberts teaming up against Randy Savage and Ted DiBiase. And as a matter of fact, that would have been a hell of a tag team match had it happened. But we got it briefly in this Rumble match, and like I said, the crowd went crazy. Next up, Warlord drew number seven. Tony Schiavone says some of the big boys are coming in now. Bret Hart from the Hart Foundation drew number eight, big pop when he came out, and it was during this point in the match when Jesse Ventura started to notice that the number one draw, Ted DiBiase, was still in the ring and how remarkable it was. And it was remarkable at the time. Bad News Brown drew number nine, and of course, this match was tailor-made for him, a guy that had no friends. Also from here, Randy Savage eliminated Jake Roberts. Dusty Rhodes drew number 10. Again, big pop. Went right after Savage. Big pop for that. When he eliminated Savage in what was an upset per Jesse Ventura, that got a big pop as well. And Savage took a real big bump over that top rope too. If you've seen this match before, y'all know what I'm talking about. That was a big bump he took. Andre the Giant drew number 11, and the way Jesse Ventura sold that was amazing. And even based on the crowd reaction, they knew what was coming as well. Of course, soon as he got in the ring, he made his presence felt. He eliminated the Warlord. And in a funny bit, Heenan and Fuji was outside. They was arguing a little bit because Fuji had got on the top rope basically to protest the elimination. And Bobby the Brain Heenan had pulled him down. And Fuji was about to hit him with the cane, but Bobby Heenan was like, your man got eliminated. Take a walk. Thank you to Jesse Ventura for that. Red Rooster drew number 12. Even for the Red Rooster and that silly gimmick, he got a big pop. From there, Roddy Piper eliminated Bad News Brown. That was a big pop for that. And no less than a few moments later, Bad News Brown gets on the apron and eliminates Piper himself. Now, let me talk about that because that was the first time that somebody actually came back in who was already eliminated and eliminated a competitor that was still in the match. Now, of course, longtime viewers would know that in later Royal Rumbles, they would let that go depending on the story. So it was interesting that they did it here. And technically, Piper wasn't eliminated, but I guess you could say that since Bad News Brown, even though he was previously eliminated, he got back on the apron to eliminate Piper. They let that slide. Next up, Axe from Demolition. He drew number 13. And it was at this point where Andre the Giant, he eliminated the Red Rooster. And Axe went right after Andre. And in my Tony Schiavone voice, you know that Demolition wanted to get their hands on the members of the Colossal Connection, which in this case would be Andre. And the next guy who drew number 14, which is Haku, he also went after Axe. The other half of Demolition, Smash, he drew number 15. Jesse Ventura was still putting over how awesome Ted DiBiase was and how he was the number one draw and he was still in the match. And it was a good performance by DiBiase. You can tell he was sucking wind, but he was still getting it in with them. And right at this point, Demolition, they eliminated Andre the Giant. And I like that bit of continuity because in the 89 Rumble, they couldn't eliminate him. But they got it done the next year. And even in 89, Andre the Giant, he eliminated Smash. So I like how they build on certain things that happened the previous year. What was barely showed on camera was that Dusty Rhodes eliminated Bret Hart. He had elbowed him out, and the camera barely caught it. And Jesse Ventura had to go back and say that they were so concerned with the elimination of Andre the Giant that they missed Bret Hart's elimination. Continuing on, Akeem, the African Dream, drew number 16, and it was 8 men in the ring at this point, the most at one time, according to Tony Schiavone. Jimmy Snuka drew number 17, and once he got in, he eliminated Akeem. Dino Bravo drew number 18. Earthquake drew number 19, and much like how the crowd responded when Andre the Giant came in, they kind of reacted the same way when Earthquake got in there. And of course, when he got in, he made his presence felt. He eliminated Dusty Rhodes and he eliminated Axe from Demolition. Jim the Anvil Neidhart drew number 20, big pop for him. And from there, Earthquake got eliminated simultaneously. Or as Jimmy Hart said, it took 5 of them. And Tony Schiavone said, it took many of them. But yeah, they gagged up and got rid of the Quake. Next up, Warrior drew number 21, big pop when he came out. You notice how everybody gets either big pops or major heat. The crowd was great on this night. Once the Warrior got in, he eliminated Dino Bravo, who said that he was waiting for the Ultimate Warrior, and he got eliminated as a result. Next up, Rick Martel, the model, drew number 22. Haku then eliminated Smash. Tito Santana drew number 23 right after Rick Martel and their ongoing feud. The one thing that I want to say about that is that they never got their proper blow off. Longtime fans will remember that they were supposed to have a match at SummerSlam 1990 due to other obligations, quote unquote, that Rick Martel had. We didn't get that match, but instead we got Tito Santana against the Warlord. And now when I think about it, Tito Santana against Rick Martel at WrestleMania 6 would have worked wonders. But then again, does that mean that Koko B. Ware and the Barbarian would have missed the card? And I don't think anybody would have been clamoring for a Koko B. Ware versus Barbarian match. Moving on. Let's see. And Tony Schiavone continued to put over Ted DiBiase and how he's still there. And at this point, he had lasted close to 44 minutes. So Honky Tonk Man drew number 24, and then we see the Ultimate Warrior eliminate the Anvil, and we see the Ultimate Warrior eliminate Ted DiBiase to a big pop. The best performance of his career. He was the MVP in this Rumble. I'm saying it early. And next up, Hulk Hogan drew number 25. Big pop when he came out. He gets in, he eliminates Jimmy Snuka, and he eliminates Haku. Then the Ultimate Warrior, he eliminates Tito Santana. And this is where things get real good, y'all. Shawn Michaels drew number 26. Hulk Hogan eliminates the Honky Tonk Man. Ultimate Warrior eliminates Shawn Michaels, who was in there for 12 seconds. He just threw a couple of punches and got eliminated. Ultimate Warrior eliminated Rick Martel. And from here, y'all, the pop when it came down to Hogan and Warrior was great. Add in Jesse Ventura and Tony Schiavone selling the moment in such tremendous fashion, and the camera work. This was an incredible moment. This was the moment that ultimately confirmed what the main event of WrestleMania 6 will be. And I also can't forget this little touch too. The cameraman got on the apron to make sure to get the shot. Watch the match again. You'll notice him hop on the apron to get that shot of Hogan and Warrior in that legendary stare down. And every time I see it, I get goosebumps. The crowd went crazy. Tony Schiavone was just losing his mind. Tony Schiavone was like, oh my God, look at this. I mean, it was such a great moment. The Barbarian drew number 27 as we continue on. Rick Rude drew number 28, even though he came in early. Very early, I might add. We continue the match with Hulk Hogan eliminating the Ultimate Warrior. I like Jesse the Body's commentary because he was basically claiming that Hogan was sneaky and the Ultimate Warrior saved him. But the moment that Hogan got an opportunity to eliminate Warrior, he put him out with no hesitation. And Tony Schiavone was trying to make the point that he wasn't trying to eliminate the Warrior. What he was doing was he just ran over there to clothesline and hit the Barbarian and Rick Rude. His intentions were not to eliminate the Warrior. What you think? Do you think that was intentional or not? Moving on. Hercules drew number 29. Yeah, he enters at number 29 in this Rumble World today. And Perfect with the perfect number drew number 30. From there, Hercules eliminated the Barbarian. Rick Rude eliminated Hercules. Perfect eliminated Rick Rude. Now, this part was interesting as well because Perfect pulled the rope down as he was getting back in the ring, but it's still kind of hard to tell if he did that as an accident or not. Maybe I got to look at that one again, but it's kind of hard to tell whether it was accidental or intentional. The match comes to a close with Hogan eliminating Mr. Perfect to win his first of 2 Royal Rumble matches. And let me speak on something. The word has always been that Mr. Perfect was set to win this match, but Hulk Hogan vetoed it, which means that Hogan got the win instead. And to this day, some fans are still mad about that. I don't have any issues with it because, again, nothing was on the line. Would it have been good to see Perfect win? Yeah, but I didn't have an issue with Hogan winning. And it's still a little surprising that nearly 30-some years later, people are still mad about Perfect not winning that Rumble match. Very, very interesting. Overall, that was a great Rumble. One of those Rumbles where I can watch it back to back and not get tired of it from start to finish. It was great. And speaking of great, that takes us to the second half of this project, which would be the 5th annual Royal Rumble match, 1992. This took place on January 19th at the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, New York. I didn't see the full pay-per-view when it aired, but I remember where I was and what I was doing. At this point, I was 7 years old, pushing 8. I was outside playing with some friends while the pay-per-view was on, and I wanted the British Bulldog to win. Not sure why, other than the fact that I was really feeling British Bulldog at the time, but I really wanted him to win. So you can imagine what my reaction would be during his elimination, and I'll talk about that when I get to the match. This is one of several tapes that I also rented a lot back in the day from Blockbuster Video and Movie Time. Y'all remember the Coliseum videos? They used to be at the video stores and most of us would rent them, and we would be disappointed when we would get there and the tape wouldn't be there. Remember looking at the cover of the tape, and then when you look behind it and you see that the tape is not going, you'd be like, man, whoever got that tape, I hope they hurry up and bring it back because I want to rent it. I miss them days, man. And like I said, this was one tape that I used to rent a lot. I would say I probably rented this tape at least 10 times, maybe a little more than that, because it was so great. Going into this show, we're going to go back a little bit. We're going to talk about the 1991 Survivor Series. Not sure if I ever mentioned that on my channel, but that show has always been a guilty pleasure of mine. What happened at this show was we had the WWF title defended for the first time on that show, and that was a match between Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker, the Gravest Challenge. The Undertaker won the match. The next week, there was this Tuesday in Texas with the rematch and Jack Tunney being at ringside. There were shenanigans during the match, the interference, cheating, you name it. Hulk Hogan won his record fourth WWF title, and due to the controversial nature of the match, Jack Tunney stripped Hogan of the belt and made the title vacant, which was the first time that happened since 1988. And what Jack Tunney ended up doing was putting the title on the line in the Rumble match, stating that the winner of the match would be the undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion. And that's how we got here to this match. And it was a good build-up because you didn't have an idea who was going to win. Before we get to the match itself, we're going to start with the pre-match interviews, just like the 1990 Rumble match. We start with Roddy Piper, who earlier in the show won the Intercontinental title from the Mountie and became the Intercontinental Champion. And he's going to have a chance to become World Champion in the Rumble match. And it was his first and only singles title in the WWF. That's still interesting to note today. Next up, we have Shawn Michaels already in HBK mode. They weren't calling him that at this point, but he had just turned heel a week before on Marty Jannetty. Y'all remember that memorable segment in the barbershop? I saw it at the time, couldn't believe it. I was shocked. He says he's the hottest thing that the WWF has ever laid eyes on. And he's going to do some things in the Rumble. Okay, we'll see about that. Next up, we continue with the barrage of interviews. Randy Savage makes it clear that number one, he's going after Jake Roberts, and their intense feud was pretty much coming to an end. And number two, he wants to be WWF champion for a second time. And he also made a comment that the Royal Rumble was the single greatest event and match ever in the WWF. I thought the single greatest event was WrestleMania, but I digress. Sid, talking through his teeth for some reason, gives a tense promo, says, "You're looking at the next World Wrestling Federation champion." I don't get why he was talking through his teeth, but he was real tense. Repo Man, what's mine's is mine, and what's yours is mine too. I always like that line. Next up, we have the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. He had won a battle royal at the Royal Albert Hall in London, England, his hometown. I never seen that match to this day, and I'm still trying to find it online. He's heading into the Rumble saying that it's going to be a true Royal Rumble if he wins, okay? Jake Roberts gives a great heel promo saying he'll save some time for Savage. Plus another dope line where he says, "I would never disappoint myself. You, I don't mind." I always like that promo. Ric Flair, perhaps the most confident wrestler of the 30 men, definitely has something to prove after calling himself the real world champion for 4 months. To be the man, you have to beat the man. Next up, Undertaker, he and Paul Bearer are preparing 29 caskets, okay? And to round out the interviews, or should I say close the interviews, we have Hulk Hogan, who gives his usual interview and says that the Rumble is the most prestigious event in the WWF. Okay, maybe now when I think about it, they're saying all this to make the Royal Rumble match seem more prestigious than previous years, which is why Savage has said that it was the single greatest event and match ever in the WWF. I always wondered why they was praising it like that, but now when I think about it, like I said, that's why they was doing that, to make it seem more prestigious than 91, 1990, 89, and 88. So I get what they were doing. A couple other notes before we go into the match. Hogan and Taker would draw between the numbers of 20 and 30 due to them being the last two WWF champions, and Marty Jannetty from the Rockers and Brian Knobbs from the Nasty Boys were replaced by Haku and Nikolai Volkov, respectively. And on that note, we get to the 1992 Royal Rumble match. But before we get to the match, Jack Tunney came out to big boos, and it seemed like he stumbled his words a bit when he said the winner of this event will not only be the man who eliminates 29 other men, but he'll also become the new WWF champion. And Bobby the Brain Heenan, look, Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon are calling this match. And before I even start, I just want to say, this is possibly the greatest called match ever. I love this, and I'm going to have tons of quotes from these men during this match. But getting back to Jack Tunney, Bobby the Brain Heenan was like, yeah. He's the best president since Noriega. I mean, Bobby the Brain Heenan was on fire in this match. saying, come on, let's go. Because Jack Tunney was taking a little bit of time, all right? So finally, the Royal Rumble is underway in my Gorilla Monsoon voice. And what I'm also going to do is keep a verbal tally, seeing which wrestlers were in this match and which wrestlers were in the 1990 Rumble match. And we get things started with the British Bulldog, who drew number 1. He came out to a nice pop. Ted DiBiase drew number 2. He was in the 1990 Rumble match. Before I continue, let me say this as well. I like the Rumble match when the intervals in between are 2 minutes. 90 seconds is cool. 60 seconds is not cool because all that does is just create a rush nature of the match like they did in 1995. There's a reason why they didn't do 60-minute, there's a reason why they didn't do 60-second intervals in later years because of how rushed and semi-chaotic the match turned out to be. But I digress. But like I said, I always like the 2-minute intervals because it makes the match flow better. It creates more of a story and you get into it a little bit more as opposed to 60-second intervals or even 90-second intervals. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Continuing with the match, the British Bulldog eliminated Ted DiBiase and Bobby the Brain Heenan lost it. Oh no! DiBiase's out of there, says Monsoon. And next up, Flair drew number 3. No! Damn it! Bobby Heenan. Gorilla Monsoon says, oh, you can kiss it goodbye, Brain. And he follows that up with, watch your language. Sit down before you have a heart attack. From this point on, Bobby the Brain Heenan is just on fire. He's pretty much giving Flair all of the coaching in the world, even though Flair can't hear him, obviously. Pace yourself. I don't think I can really be objective. And Gorilla Monsoon says, when have you ever been objective? I mean, they were great on this night. Continuing on, Jerry Sags from the Nasty Boys drew number 4, and after a few seconds or whatever, British Bulldog eliminates him and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Oh no, it's back to Bulldog and Flair. This is not fair to Flair. This is not fair to Flair. It certainly is. Oh my God, man. Next up, Haku drew number 5. He was also in the Night Rumble match. Now, he was helping Flair to beat up the British Bulldog, but then he turned on Flair. Here comes Bobby Heenan. See? The heck are you doing, Haku? Have you gone nuts? Oh my goodness, man. So funny. From there, the British Bulldog eliminated Haku. Then Shawn Michaels drew number 6, came out to Mad Hill Heat. He was in the 1990 Rumble match. Tito Santana drew number 7. He was in the 1990 Rumble match. There was also a point in this part of the match when Ric Flair, who started a trend when he low blowed the British Bulldog, followed by a collective ooh from the audience. Bobby the Brain Heenan says, I would do that to my grandmother if I could. And Gorilla Monsoon said, I'm sure you would. More funny lines there. Next up, Barbarian drew number 8. He was also in the 1990 Rumble match. Gorilla Monsoon, at this point in the match, was really starting to become impressed with Ric Flair and his abilities. And you also get the impression that Gorilla Monsoon probably never seen anything that Ric Flair did in the NWA in the 80s. It just comes off like that. I could be wrong, but since Monsoon is no longer with us, we probably would never know. But he was putting over Ric Flair. He was becoming impressed as the match went on. And it wasn't the last time that he would put over Flair in this match, as we'll see. And speaking of Gorilla, he says, Barbarian doesn't like Flair. And here comes Bobby Heenan. Barbarian doesn't like anybody. When I managed him, he barely liked me. Why do you think they call him the Barbarian? He's not a hairdresser on his day off, you know. Oh my goodness, man. The match continues with Kerry Von Erich, otherwise known as the Texas Tornado. He drew number 9 and he went right after Ric Flair, which was a nice call back to their rivalry in the 80s in world-class championship wrestling in the NWA. Longtime fans know what I'm talking about. Repo Man drew number 10. Greg the Hammer Valentine drew number 11, and him and Flair, they just had a brutal chop fest in the corner. I mean, mad chops. Nikolai Volkov drew number 12. The fans didn't care when he came out. Not only that, but when he got in the ring, he was eliminated by the Repo Man. He was only in there for 1 minute and 4 seconds. Then we continue on with the 19 Rumble match where Boss Man, he drew number 13, hitting everyone as soon as he came in. The Repo Man, he eliminated Greg Valentine. Also, it was mentioned that Greg Valentine, he along with Rick Martel, they had the 2 records in the 1991 Rumble match, which is another good Rumble match that I like. A lot of people weren't too crazy about the 91 Rumble match, but I like it. Continuing on, Boss Man eliminated the Repo Man. Then Ric Flair eliminated the British Bulldog with a shoulder lift. Then he followed that up and eliminated the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. When I was outside on the day that this show was airing and I was playing with my friends, one of my friends had pretty much came and told me that the British Bulldog was eliminated. He wasn't looking at the show. He basically kept trying to turn to the pay-per-view channel to see what was going on. To this day, I don't know if he had the actual pay-per-view but decided not to look at it, or if he had some form of scramble vision. And longtime fans remember what scramble vision was. That's when you had a certain TV and you had a certain box. The picture was scrambled. You could hear what was going on, but you couldn't see it. So that was scramble vision back in the day. And I kind of miss it and I kind of don't. But it's still a little nostalgia thing that most of us longtime fans remember. Continuing on, Tito Santana and Shawn Michaels eliminated each other. Hercules then came out at number 14. He was also in the 1990 Rumble match, went right after Ric Flair. Here comes Bobby Heenan. What's wrong with you, Hercules? And Gorilla Monsoon comes in. Maybe he remembers how you treated him, which was a callback to Hercules being sold as a slave 1988 heading into the Survivor Series pay-per-view. I mean, Bobby the Brain Heenan just sold him up the river. No discussions, no negotiations, no nothing. Just became Ted DiBiase's slave. We continue things on with Hercules eliminating the Barbarian. Hold on, I gotta go back to something. When Hercules came in, there also was a segment when Flair had turned on the Barbarian and Bobby Heenan was like, no. Don't turn on him, Rick. Don't turn on him, Rick. Don't. No. Oh my goodness, man. This is great stuff here. We continue on with Hercules eliminating the Barbarian, the Boss Man eliminating Hercules, and then Flair eliminating the Boss Man. And Flair at this point was in the ring by himself. Here comes Bobby Heenan. Flair wins it. Flair's the champion of the world. Gorilla Monsoon says, are you kidding? There's a lot more guys. And speaking of a lot more guys, that brings out the number 15. Roddy Piper, who was also in the 1990 Rumble match. He came out to a big pop and went right after Flair because they had a little beef going on at this time. And the look on Ric Flair's face when he came out just said it all, as if to say, oh God, no. So great, man. Then speaking of great, it continues because Jake Roberts, the most dangerous man in the world, according to Bobby Heenan, came out at number 16. He was also in the 1990 Rumble match. And I got to talk about this one. So when Jake slithers in the ring, he gets in the corner, he sits there, he lets Piper and Flair duke it out. Jake Roberts gets up, he strikes Piper. Bobby Heenan says, thank you, Jake, thank you. So then he helps up Ric Flair, who has a big smile on his face. And no less than a few seconds after he gets up, Jake Roberts hit him with a short arm clothesline. Bobby Heenan says, you no good. The Gorilla Monsoon says, you just said thanks, Jake. That part right there always makes me laugh because of how quick Bobby Heenan turned. So the action continues. There was one point when Flair and Jake Roberts were wrestling. Piper comes over and stops that. Bobby Heenan says, thank you, Piper, and then says, I never thought I said this, but thank you, Roddy. It's a kilt. It's not a skirt. It's a kilt. They switch things around. Ric Flair and Jake Roberts were locked in the figure four, and Piper came in and interrupted that. Bobby Heenan turns again. He says, you no good creep. You skirt wearing freak. Not a kilt, it's a skirt. Oh my God. So funny, man. I love that part of the match. Hacksaw Jim Duggan came out at number 17, and as the match continues, you will hear Monsoon still being impressed with Ric Flair and his performance and putting him over and what a good athlete he was. And again, like I said earlier in the video, you really get the impression that Gorilla Monsoon had not seen anything that Ric Flair did prior to him coming to the WWF. I mean, that's the impression that I got. Next up, IRS, Erna Shyster drew number 18. Now, during this point of the match, they did a good job in knowing how paranoid Jake the Snake was, because every time the buzzer went off, he was looking at the entrance because he didn't know when Randy Savage would be coming up. He knew Savage would be gunning for. Next up, somebody else who was in the 1990 Rumble match, Jimmy Snuka, he drew number 19. Undertaker drew number 20, and in a real badass elimination, Taker just pushed Snuka out of the ring, and he went after Ric Flair, and here comes Bobby Heenan. He goes right after him. What is wrong with you, Rick? What is wrong with you? He got a death grip around his neck. It's over. It's over. Everything down the toilet. And here comes Gorilla Monsoon. Why don't you just go down there and throw the towel in? And here comes Bobby Heenan. down the pike. It's so funny. I mean, I can't do it justice. It has to be heard to be appreciated. The greatness continues because Randy Savage comes out at number 21. He was also in the 1990 Rumble match. He was looking for Jake, and the moment he got in the ring, he got blindsided by the Undertaker. And when he finally got his hands on Jake, he was trying to tear him apart. And from there, he eliminated Jake Roberts. But we cannot proceed without talking about the controversy. After he eliminated Jake, he jumped over the top rope and apparently eliminated himself. Now, I've read and heard that that was a botch on Randy Savage's end. So in real time, Bobby the Brain Heenan was like covering up for him, pretty much saying that, oh, I know what it is. The only way you can be eliminated is if you're actually thrown over the top rope. Somebody has to throw you over the top rope in order to be eliminated. Monsoon was saying, I'll take your word for it, but I have to check that out. So, do you think that that was not supposed to happen, or it was part of the story and Bobby Heenan was just making those comments on the fly? And of course, in later years, similar things will happen in terms of self-eliminations, but it was accepted or not depending on the story being told. The Berserker drew number 22. Now, his specialty was throwing people over the top rope, but he didn't eliminate nobody in this match. Virgil came out at number 23. Colonel Mustafa, formerly known as the Iron Sheik, came out at number 24. Rick Martel, who drew number 25, came out. He was also in the 1990 Rumble match. Randy Savage eliminated Colonel Mustafa. And next up, Hulk Hogan, who came out at number 26, came out to a big pop. He was also in the 1990 Royal Rumble match. And I also like this part in the match too. He got in, he eliminated The Undertaker, and then the Berserker came running at him. He backdropped him out, and the crowd went crazy for that. That was a nice little spot right there. Bobby Heenan was like, imagine putting out The Undertaker and the Berserker within 10 seconds of each other. Virgil and Hacksaw Jim Duggan eliminated each other. Skinner drew number 27, impressing no one. He barely got any reaction. Continuing on, Sergeant Slaughter drew number 28. Rick Martel eliminated Skinner, good riddance. Sid drew number 29, big pop for him. Listen to this crowd go crazy, according to Monsoon. And again, Monsoon was putting over Ric Flair and saying how great Ric Flair was, and he was close to being in the ring for over an hour, which basically would be the best performance of his WWF career as well. Great stuff here. Warlord came out at number 30, shocking no one other than Bobby the Brain Heenan, I guess. He was also in the 1990 Rumble match, and he didn't last that long either because after Sid eliminated Slaughter and Piper eliminated IRS, Hogan and Sid teamed up to eliminate the Warlord. We continue things on. Sid eliminated Roddy Piper and Rick Martel at the same time. Sid eliminated Randy Savage. And of course, we get another infamous part in this match when Sid came over and dumped Hogan to a big pop. I have more on that in a bit. And then we come to the end with Sid and Flair. Hogan, for some dubious reason, tries to pull Sid out, but Ric Flair comes up from behind and eliminates Sid to win the Royal Rumble match and win the first of 2 WWF championships. The crowd went crazy. Bobby Heenan went crazy. Yes, Gorilla Monsoon was like, Flair did it. It was a great moment. But the moment wouldn't last because it seemed like Flair became a quick afterthought because the post-match activities focused on Hogan and Sid, and you can hear it in the actual broadcast that the fans were clearly siding with Sid. And there was a point when Hulk Hogan put his hands in the air and the crowd booed. But in later WWF programming, they would sweeten it so that the crowd was cheering Hogan, and even Gorilla Monsoon re-recorded his commentary, which was crazy. I don't know why they did that other than the fact that they still wanted Hogan to be the babyface, but you can't hide that reaction. But we don't end there because, of course, Flair go backstage with Gene Okerlund, Mr. Perfect, and Bobby Heenan and give that real memorable interview saying that it was the greatest moment in his life and the WWF title was the ultimate symbol in who the real champion in wrestling was at the time. Paraphrasing a little bit, but y'all remember that great interview. And that was a good way to close such an awesome Royal Rumble 1992. And like that, we've come to the end of the project where I'm going to give my overall thoughts on both matches with a couple of categories. The match build-up. Hands down, the 90 Rumble wins this one. And as I said earlier in the video, the 90 Rumble had a standard build with nothing on the line like the preceding 2 years. But the 92 Rumble came in with the WWF title being vacant for the first time since '88, and the winner became the new champion. Can't beat this one. The level of talent, while the 92 Rumble has its share of big names, I'm going to give this one to the 90 Rumble. Both matches give a visual snapshot as to what the roster was at the time, but in my view, the 1990 edition was a little more stacked. Storylines, Flair's performance in the 92 Rumble wins here. From the moment he entered the ring to the final bell rung, the focus was on him, but not so much that the other wrestlers didn't matter. It told a great story. And in a way, you can say the same for DiBiase in the 90 Rumble, but 92 was better. In terms of the build to WrestleMania, I'm going to give this one to 1990. When the show was over, you could tell that Hogan versus Warrior would be the main event. Demolition would face the Colossal Connection for the tag team titles. Piper and Bad News Brown would have a match. Savage and Dusty Rhodes would have their encounters. After the 92 Rumble, you really couldn't tell what direction they would go in for WrestleMania 8. So it did have some unpredictability there. The Rumble match MVPs, well, this is obvious. 1990, it would be Ted DiBiase, who was in for 44 minutes and 20 seconds. The 1992 Rumble, obviously, that would be Ric Flair. I timed him at 58 minutes and 47 seconds, but his time has always been recognized as an hour and 2 minutes. The least valuable players in the Rumble, this one is easy. 1990 will go to Shawn Michaels, who was in there for all of 12 seconds. And in 1992, it will go to Nikolai Volkov, who was in there for 1 minute and 4 seconds. Both matches are in my top 10 favorite matches of all time. 5-star rating for both matches. The last two things I want to focus on are the commentary and the crowd. Regarding the commentary, Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura had great chemistry during the match, but their commentary overall wasn't better than Gorilla and Bobby Heenan's. In fact, like I said earlier in the video, the 92 Rumble still holds up today as one of the greatest called matches ever. Last but not least, on the crowd, I'll give the slight edge to the 1990 Rumble. Everybody got a reaction, heels and faces, and the fans reacted to everything from start to finish. In the 92 Rumble, the crowd was great, but their reactions cooled a bit when Skinner and Colonel Mustafa and Nikolai Volkov came out. Pardon me for nitpicking a little bit, but that's something I noticed. I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, but I'm going to mention it now. Another reason why I wanted to do this project was to determine ultimately which match I think is the best match. And even as I finished this project with the Rumble match in 1990 winning 3 categories and the 92 Rumble match winning 3 categories, it seemed like now I still have to give it an even tie. And even though I looked at both of them back to back, I still couldn't tell you which match was better between the two. And quite frankly, it's probably going to be a long time before I even make that determination. And that just goes to show how great both matches were. They are, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest 2 Royal Rumble matches in history. When it comes to the standard as to how a Rumble match should be, that definitely goes to 1990 and 1992. And on that note, y'all, we have come to the end of this project. I had a good time doing this video. Great stuff. I never get tired of those matches. If you like what you heard and you're ready to become part of Team Discipline, go ahead and hit that like button and drop some comments, not only if you're feeling the content, but let me know your stance on the 90 Rumble match, the 92 Rumble match, and even if you want to talk about other Rumble matches throughout history, let me know what your thoughts are. And last but not least, hit that subscribe button along with the bell so you're notified when I drop new videos. And until next time, my people, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. I wanted to come back on and add this because for some reason this slipped my mind when I was doing the original video. In reference to the 1992 Royal Rumble, Ric Flair in his book To Be the Man, and I did read that book once or twice several years ago, he said that he didn't know that he was winning the WWF title until he got to the arena that day. And also he felt that the reason why he was given number 3 was basically to show his endurance to people who wasn't familiar with his work from the NWA back in the 80s, which I understand because at that point in 1992, I would say a good portion of the WWF fan base probably did not watch the NWA, but then again, you probably had some people that watched it too, but I would say the majority of the fans probably did not watch the NWA at that point. So I get that reasoning.
Secondly, Bobby the Brain Heenan, in his book Bobby the Brain, which I've never read, he said that it was his initial idea for Ric Flair to come in at number 1 for dramatic purposes, but Vince McMahon came in and pretty much changed it to number 3 and took credit for the idea ever since. I just wanted to come back in and add that because, like I said, I'm not sure why that slipped my mind during the original video. Take care.